In the Vulgarides text on page 117, there is a discussion called political forces. In the discussion, they discuss the role of how classroom educators, how LEA representatives, how administrators can help to create an environment that's not just about compliance with IDEA, and that's more about what can we do to go beyond just showing up and being compliant. The book quoted that historically teachers were not questioned on how they were challenging disproportionality because they were in compliance with IDEA. This showed the federal government that because I'm complying with IDEA, I'm somehow addressing disproportionality, but overlooked the fact that there are ways to comply without fully addressing the underlying issues. The educators could and did comply with IDEA in a way that maintained the status quo, but it didn't truly challenge the issues of inequity. What needs to be done, according to the book, is that state officials and local educators need to find dynamic and productive ways to engage with and challenge complex political issues that surround educational equity within local contexts. We need to come together as educators, and we need to look at how we can best meet the needs of all students beyond just demonstrating a baseline compliance with the law. We as educators, we know we need to have discussions on how can we fairly educate all students. How can we go beyond just showing up and complying in order to ensure that we're not just jumping through hoops, but we're actually meeting the needs of our students. We need to be reflective of how educational resources are locally distributed, and we need to be ready to address the equity impacts associated with this unequal distribution of material. We must come up with plans on how can we ensure that all schools are receiving the materials they need to educate their students. It's not going to fix itself, and as educators, we need to come up with a plan of how are we going to make sure that all of our students are receiving the materials they need just by proving that we're following and complying with IDEA. We're not going to change the materials that our students are receiving. Another way that we can improve ourselves as educators and how we're representing our students is to attend professional developments that look at how these racial inequities intersect and influence how IDEA is used to support students. We should come up with professional developments that address issues of fairness and as educators, we need to raise these concerns in personal and public forums. We need to work on building partnerships between educators and community members that effectively communicate and advocate to state officials. We also, as a whole, need to be more mindful of the small steps we take that may unintentionally encourage or enable disproportionality without our realization. And we really just need to do more than just show up and comply with IDEA. The book, the Vulgarides text, presented a lot of ideas of things that we as educators can be doing to improve ourselves. And at the end of the day, it falls on us to make sure that we are being mindful of how we're representing ourselves and how we're representing our students. And we need to not be afraid to challenge the system that's in place, and we need to be willing to effectively communicate and advocate for our students without fear of rattling the system. And just by complying with IDEA, we're not going to be able to do that. We need to do more, and we need to do more than just showing up. And we really need to be the voices for our students, and we need to be reflective and mindful of our own behavior in order to make those changes.